Okay, hi everybody. I'm here today for our transformation talk with Erica Staab, who is an author, life coach, and director of a nonprofit that supports women who've been victims of sexual assault and domestic violence. And you can find her at ericastaab.com. And you can also find her beautiful book, The In-Between, at her website. And we're going to do a giveaway today because I have one in my hot little hands. And so there'll be instructions on how to win her book in the post that accompanies this video. So thanks for being here, Erica. I'm really happy to talk with you today.
Well, I am excited. Thanks so much.
So a little background, Erica and I met through our blogs, and our writing was so similar that we both just felt like kindred spirits, I think, almost immediately.
Yes.
The energy of our writing, and we were both writing about grief and growth and all of that. So I want to ask you, now you were a social worker before your brother was killed in an accident.
Yes, yes.
Okay. But what happened with you, with your life, with your work, sort of in the grief journey?
Well, and it was an interesting time because in addition to losing my brother, I was also going through a divorce. Within 6 months, I had went through a divorce, or was in the process of separating, and at the time, I was living in South Carolina. And so then I moved back home to Minnesota and to be closer to my family. And so then in that process, his daughter was born. And so there was a lot of, and I also left my job that I loved and adored. I was doing some policy work on a statewide and national level and just absolutely adored it. And so it was really hard because there was a lot of endings and I didn't quite know what the beginnings would look like at that moment. And I knew I needed to take a step back because I didn't at that point really have anything to give because I was at that moment just kind of shattered and everything had fallen away. And so I literally needed to rebuild from the ground up. And so in a way at the time, it was really difficult. But at the same time, it was almost a gift in the sense that everything was gone. So it was, there was no choice but to rebuild. So what I did was I just stepped back from my social work for a while, and I am also a massage therapist, and so I did that for I think it was about 8 months, and I just knew that that was the only way that I could give. I couldn't be a social worker in the truest form because I didn't have anything to give at that moment. And I think that's one of my biggest gifts is just learning that, you know, at different points in your life, you're going to have different things to offer. And at that moment, I needed to take care of myself, and I wasn't very good at doing that. I'd spent my life taking care of everybody else, and so learning how to take care of myself in an entirely new way was one of the best gifts of that period of time.
So can you talk a little bit more about what that looked like for you? How did you learn to take care of yourself?
Well, you know, I had the gift of, because I moved back to Minnesota, I was actually living with my parents at the time, and then my sister-in-law and her daughter moved in as well, and so it was kind of all of us, and it was just this, so I didn't have to worry about meals or, you know, I mean, I did my own laundry, but at the same time, you know, Mom was helping with all those things. So I really could invest time and energy in healing. And for me, that meant writing. So I wrote every night for at least an hour, sometimes two. And that was really the way that the main way that I helped myself through that whole period of time. And then talking to other people who knew and understood and seeking out different resources. I think it wasn't too long after that I found your blog and was like, yes, this is, somebody else is going through something similar.
Mm. So you had the advantage of having some support and community around you. Yeah.
Yes.
Which is so important for healing.
Well, and the other piece was I had moved back to my hometown. And so although that was difficult in some ways because, you know, when I walked into the grocery store, everybody kind of looked at me and was like, ooh, Erica, do we talk to her? Do we not? And, you know, she became that girl. And in some ways, it was really healing to have everyone kind of know. And some days when I didn't want to deal with it, it was hard. So.
Yeah. Well, it's all hard. So how long was it? You said you did massage therapy for about 8 months, and then what happened in that transition? You were writing. When did you feel like you wanted to start giving back a little bit more again in a different way?
Well, I knew when I started to get excited about things again,
Mm.
and I started to reconnect with that feeling of, oh, hey, I have a little bit extra at the end of the day. It's not just, getting up, making sure that I'm dressed and able to face the world and to do all the little things. It was now, oh, okay, there's a little bit of energy at the end of the day left over. And so I started thinking about what I wanted to do with that. And it just so happened that the job that I was looking for, because at that point I was considering going back to school. And so then the job that I was looking for came open, and I said, oh, well, this seems like a fine time to jump into that. So.
And so you jumped into a new job.
Yes.
And can you talk a little bit about what happened with your writing and with your decision to go into coaching as well?
Well, writing definitely was what kept me sane. And then through the blogs and through looking online, I realized that, there's a whole bunch of people out here that, number one, either do the same thing as I do, or number two, realize that, I don't have words for this. And I had so many people in my life that said, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I was thinking or feeling. And I didn't know how to say it. And so I realized that, to be able to use this gift in service to somebody else's healing is incredibly powerful. And so, so I decided to do more with that. And I've always wanted to be a writer. I've been writing ever since, I had that little diary with the little lock on it that my brother used to go in and find and read and make fun of. But so I've always been doing that. So it was just kind of a natural progression to say, you know what? And the other gift of grief was that I no longer cared as much what people thought about things. So a lot of that fear of, well, what if they don't like it? What if they don't? People were responding so intimately because I was writing so intimately. And so there was just this great synergy that was happening. And so a lot of the fear that I had just kind of left, and it just was the natural step. So.
Beautiful. And what's happening now in your life? Like you've still got a number of things that you do.
Yes.
And it's been how many years since your brother's death?
It's been 5.
Okay.
Yep. This month it was 5.
So, how was the anniversary?
Anniversaries are always interesting, and this year is really powerful because it was the first anniversary that we laughed more than we cried, and we told stories and remembered him, and so it was neat to be able to get together and to remember some of the good stuff, and to not just have it be this incredibly painful piece. It was also this almost a celebration of his life. So
yeah, thank you for sharing that, because I think so many people, I talk to people who are like, well, it's been a year and people are worried because I'm still sad. And it's so beautiful to hear, 5 years, 7 years, however long it takes before you do laugh more than you cry at those moments.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I wish that I would have known that it's okay. The first, I would say, 2 years are incredibly difficult. The second year is almost harder because you're starting to feel more normal, and then you're trying to say, well, wait a minute, I was so sad and so lost for so long, and now I'm starting to feel normal, and how to reconcile that. Mm-hmm. And so I think now by this 5th year, now I've built this new life, and at the same time that, there are still moments, there's still things, there's still stories and times that, it'll hit me. For the most part, when I talk about him, when I hear other people talk about him, there's just this warmth and this love that's left.
Beautiful. And so how do you support people who are going through this right now? Can you give us a little bit of info about what that looks like?
Yeah. Well, I definitely, because of my book, people have been reaching out to me, and that's been wonderful. I've loved being able to help people through the process. And I think for so many of us, including myself, it was so helpful to know that there was life beyond this, that, I wasn't going to be stuck in this place forever. But at the same time, I needed to honor the fact that this is a really mucky-ucky, sad place right now, and that's okay. Yeah. And that someday I would laugh again. And I think for me, not feeling gratitude, because that comes pretty naturally to me, and I really cultivate that, and I wasn't feeling gratitude. And so what I really try and remind people, and what people seek me out for, it seems, is just that reminder that it takes time. it takes time and it takes a community, and that your heart will heal, but wherever you're at is okay. And I think we don't allow ourselves to be in the painful places for very long. We try and, drown them out, sleep them away, drink them away, run them away, whatever we do, and just being able to sit in the midst of that sadness and grief and have somebody else to be a witness to that. So that's kind of what I'm doing now in a lot of ways. And in my coaching, it's obviously what I do at the crisis center. And then also just kind of people seeking me out because they know. And once you become part of the in club, it's kind of like you have that tattoo on your forehead, and so you seek people out and people seek you out, and there's this connection.
Yeah, it's beautiful, isn't it? Just how people find each other when they need each other. I know. Yeah. It's been a huge gift in my life too. Well, and finding you has been a huge gift.
Yes.
Okay, so I want to finish with 3 little questions that I've been asking everyone. The first is, if you could wave your magic wand and change anything about the world, what would it be?
Oh, goodness. I think helping people to recognize their gifts. I think so often we know everything that's wrong with us, but we don't know what's amazing and powerful and strong and right about us. And I just wish people would be able to see the beauty that they have and that they hold and that they have to offer the world. And I think the world would be a much different place if we could acknowledge as much about what's right as we do what's wrong.
I agree. Okay. What brings you the most joy right now in your life?
Definitely my relationships with my friends and family, and my niece is turning 5 tomorrow, and so we're going to be going to the zoo, and so it's going to be a lot of fun. So definitely nurturing the relationships and really celebrating them, because I think that's one of the things that this has taught me, that we need to celebrate each other, and we forget. So to really kind of, it's not about how clean my house is or any of that, but it's how loud my niece laughs when we play together. So
yeah. And before I ask you the last question, I really want to ask, and if you don't want to talk about this, that's okay, but your niece was born after her dad died. So how has the family fostered her connection with him?
It's very interesting because she talks about him a lot. Actually, she just started preschool, and she was telling her teacher about the whole situation. That was one of the first things that she talked about. So obviously it's important to her. My sister-in-law is in a new relationship, and he's been wonderful in terms of nurturing that, saying, whenever we talk about Mitch, he supports it and nurtures that connection as well. And so I think that's incredibly critical. And we all talk about him. And so she knows who her dad is, and we have pictures and things, and we say that, he lives in her heart. And so it's been, and she's been a powerful way to heal and to see some of him live through her. So that's been incredibly helpful. And some days it does, smart a little bit when you see certain things. And now for me, at least, I don't know about the rest of my family, but for me, it just brings nothing but excitement that, she carries some of him with her.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. It brings tears to my eyes as I listen to you talk about it. Okay, last question. Can you share one kind of fun fact about you that people don't know unless they know you really well, that makes you uniquely you?
Oh, goodness. I lived in a castle. When I was in college, we did an exchange program, and I lived in Scotland in a castle, and it was so much fun. It was very cold, though. It's not quite as romantic in terms of that, but it was a great time.
That sounds amazing. I want to know more about that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Erica, for being here. And again, if you're if you're interested in Erica's beautiful book, you can find it at her website, ericastaab.com. And also, we're going to do a giveaway. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Erica, for being here.
Thank you.
Okay, have a beautiful day.